welcome everybody today to the IG Live of Amazing Authors, episode number 27. I have the amazing author, Antonia Deignan, who's now going to be presenting her beautiful story as well as the story behind her new memoir, her debut memoir at that, called Underwater Daughter. You know, this is our room where we get to create magic through inspiration, always my favorite things. And this is where the storyteller becomes the story. Today, like I said, we get to talk about her and her profound journey toward this memoir. It's good to bring you into the place to have this conversation today, Tuni. I'm so excited to have you here. I had the beautiful privilege of meeting you this last December in Santa Fe, where we became friends, and fast friends at that. And the cool thing about that is that I got to have an advanced copy of your book, and I got to read all about it, and really how incredibly profound and how vulnerable you were in telling your story. It is an important work. But before we go on, I'd love to give your intro to everybody before we get into the nitty-gritty. She is the mother of 5 children by choice, a dancer by calling, and a writer by necessity. She was born on the East Coast, but spent most of her life in the Midwest, where she danced with multiple dance companies and raised her children. She opened her own dance studio and directed a pre-professional dance company before a bike accident wishboned her path. Amazing, like life brings you all these wonderful twists and turns. And it not only wishboned her path, but also her identity. Her work has been published in print magazines and online. Now she's retired. And she was, I think you do more now, retired perhaps, than you did when you were actually, you know, like I said, your pub day was May 2nd. Congratulations, a little over a month now, and it's available wherever books are sold. So good afternoon, Tuni. How are you? I'm so happy to see you today and share all of this wonderful with you and everyone else.
Thank you.
So here is the synopsis of your beautiful book. Tuni's father began sexually abusing her when she was just 4 years old. Her mother, though aware of the abuse, was a silent witness, one either capable or unwilling to intervene. And the abuse continued until Tuni was 11. 3 years later, when Tuni was 14, she was raped by an adult actor who was part of her cast in a professional theater production. These traumas would go on to shape much of her life. Underwater Daughter follows how Tuni grappled with her relationship with her parents, the aftermath of her rape, and eating disorder, drug and alcoholic excesses, and shame as she came of age and began to build a life. In order to not lose her innocence, her inner innocence, in order to protect herself, in order to believe in love, she began early on to create imaginary worlds into which she could escape, to use her dreams to just transport her away from her fears. By early adulthood, she was well practiced at slapping lipstick, pink frosty, kiss me, gloss over perfect lipstick, as we can see here, over whatever darkness might be bubbling underneath. She was hired by a dance company right out of high school. She found success as a dancer in Chicago and New York, but in her personal and emotional life, she continued to struggle. Ultimately, it took her decades of dancing, hiding, faking, fucking, costuming, implanting, disassociating, marrying, divorcing, and purging, all the while staying silent about her past trauma, before a bike accident at age 55 forced her to stop and truly take stock of her life. As she did, she came to a resting place, finally, in regard to her father, developed a loving relationship she always wanted with her mother, and came to understand that in the end, love is all anyone wants or needs. Wow, that was a lot. I know. Wipe my brow, take a deep breath, and back to you. Oh my God. Tell me, this book.
Honestly, when I hear all of that, I don't even believe it. And, you know, especially when you consider some of the tougher issues in my youth, you know, it makes me uncomfortable listening to it, right? Like, it's just not things that we embrace as a sort of coffee table martini kind of conversation. And yet it's the reason the book ended up being published, is I felt so strongly that the idea of sitting and allowing ourselves to remain uncomfortable is part of the problem. And it's just like anything when we're dealing with racism or climate change or all these things that make us squirm in our seats. We've conditioned ourselves to stay there in that discomfort and sort of become deaf and blind and all of those things. And so I'm while this was challenging and not easy to sort of bring forward to my children and my siblings and all those other things, I'm very proud and just very proud that I made it happen.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, like all of this is kind of an exposure of your soul to the world. And I think in many ways, the anticipation of that exposure may be paralyzing. And then after it's over on the other side, now that you've been published and it's out there and people are reading and they're experiencing your beautiful sharing, how is it experiencing for you? Like, how is the experience for you now? Is it a deep breath or of sigh of relief? Are you still holding on with both hands, knuckles white?
That's a really interesting point, because I've actually, because I'm, with She Writes Press, and I know a lot of authors that have done memoirs, yourself included, right? And I've experienced other authors saying to me, that they're feeling anxiety over, putting so much of themselves out there for the public to do whatever they wish to do with, right? Yeah. I have not had that experience. And I'm, if I think about it, I'm wondering if that's part and parcel to my ability to dissociate. I think I'm very good at that. Yeah. I think that's, going into this journey, it wasn't going to be published in the beginning. So that sort of, equalized that fear in the beginning, because it wasn't something I was going to publish. By the time, it became, I signed a contract and all of a sudden it's happening, I was so immersed in the creative process. I was so focused on creating, as beautiful of a story as I could. And really deep down, I feel it's a love story. I feel it's me, embracing the flaws, the mistakes, the the fears and struggles and suffering that all of us go through, right? And trying to shine, as much compassion in that as I can, or through my words. So
what was the most surprising thing that happened? Like you said, you weren't going to publish it,
right?
And then because you signed a contract, so you're holding yourself accountable. But what's the most surprising thing that's come from this whole pushing it out into the world?
I've had some amazing one-on-one conversations with people after they've read my book, and it inspires them to share their stories with me. And that's a very humbling and rewarding experience, right? Like, I do feel as though there might be one or two or a handful of people that their lives might go in a different direction because of reading the book.
Beautiful. And why Underwater Daughter? I mean, it's got a beautiful cover. It has all connotations of experiencing underwater, what happens there. But for you, what does that mean specifically? Why did you choose that title?
Well, I had a little help with the title. The working title of the book was The Beauty Within, which I loved, but it wasn't necessarily a commercial pop of a title. And my publisher gave me sort of a list of about 100 words after reading the first half of the book, right? And, said, see if you can come up with something else. Those two words absolutely just shouted out to me. There's so much sea symbolism, and the setting of Martha's Vineyard and the beach where we spent so much time as a family and by myself, and the solace and just connection to the world that I continue to feel in that surroundings made the underwater component pretty obvious to me. I loved the rhythm of the words. And when you're underwater, it's sensory deprivation, right? It becomes this ability to sort of hone in on your interior life and explore that and find some answers there, right? So there's just a lot, because there's obviously a lot of mother-daughter exploration in the book as well. So it worked. It just suddenly became the right title.
So, well, I love the title, and I think it definitely works for sure. And I encourage everyone to go out there and take a look at this book and read it and actually process it, because I think that you really have to sit with a lot of it. I know that when we tell our stories, our intention is really beautiful, to offer it as a healing tool. And I think that that's what I told you as well. It felt like that. It felt like that kind of offering. But back to you, you know, why did you decide to actually write it and then publish it? And how long did it take you, to be quite honest?
So from the first time, you know, I was tapping out words on a page to the final read, right? 5 years, give or take, 4.5 years. And, you know, I got a lot of encouragement once I got in this rhythm of writing. I joined a writing group. It was during COVID. So for the first time, I am interacting with a writing coach per se and getting feedback about my writing. I'd never had feedback on it, right? And you know, hey, you should think about publishing. So other people sort of planted the seed in that way. And you know, it just got to that point where I thought, well, I'll just throw a few manuscripts out there and see if anyone responds. And all of a sudden I'm getting, hey, we're interested. And so it kind of went from there. And, you know, once I decided, yes, it was, you know, my dancer's discipline set in. I was like, okay, let's do this. You know, let's do the damn thing. And the process, moving my creativity in that way, you know, in such a disciplined fashion, was exhilarating. I hadn't had that kind of a creative commitment since my professional dancing days, right? And I lived and breathed those days. Like that was all of me, you know, being the professional dancer. So it was so, I felt so fortunate to get back in touch with that part of me.
So I get to ask you the question, how did writing the book metaphorically take you in line to being a dancer? Like, how did that feel, as if the creative component was coming alive? Was it the same? Was it different? Was it a whole new experience for your, I know you're very spiritual and you're very soul filled.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's were you dancing with the words? Were you in that book for, you know, a compass, like a symphony playing behind you, or the whole shebang?
All of the above. I will say that, you know, the experience of dance, because it's a physical embodiment, right, of every, you know, ounce of your creative output, there's something that can almost manifest out of body in that experience. And so writing isn't necessarily equal to that specific kind of sensory physical experience. But, you know, I was guided so much in the writing rhythmically, with patterns, with movement, that it blended in that way. You know, the same sensibility I brought to dance was definitely employed through my writing. And you do lose yourself in that rhythm, in that creativity, to the point that there's definitely times where your writing is just intuitive, right? It's intuitively coming out in a way that you can't predict. You look back at your words and you think, did I fucking just write that? Sorry about the F-bomb, but you know what I mean? It's just, it's that same sort of, you know, otherworldly connection, I guess. I don't know. It is a spiritual experience for me, just like dance was.
So now,
for sure.
Now for a little over a month now, it's a little over a month.
Yeah.
Do you feel creative outburst, or do you feel like that, like the creativity is stopped in the marketing? Like, for instance, you're focusing on some of the things that take you back in your body, not so out there and not so underwater, so to speak. You know, it's a different world now.
It is different. I am very, very deep into writing a novel. So, and I was very serious about making sure that that was the case during this process, because I'm not a huge fan of the whole marketing side of things. And I think that that's pretty common with, you know, most authors that I know. So it's kept my pen on the paper daily for the most part. And having it being a novel is also a wonderful, freeing experience, because it's not necessarily my heart on the table or on the page. Obviously, so my experience is, you know, funneled into the writing, but it's clothed in other people's characters or, you know, names, situations, whatever the case might be. But I will say that my live interactions like this, like book events that I've done, like book club events that I've done, it is related. It is a similar kind of creative and spiritual connection, because it's bringing out, you know, this spontaneous interactions right between you and I. It's a relationship, you know, it's embodying like all the moving pieces at once, and I love that. That to me is another creative process.
So what has been your favorite part of this production of this masterpiece? What has been one of those incidents or those creative connections that you're like, oh my God, let me tell you, I have to tell you, this is just like a life-changing, perhaps?
Oh, I think there's a lot, and the potential for that not only is massive, but it continues. You know, some highlights for sure were my children reading the memoir. They got to see a part of me they didn't, you know, really know firsthand in that way, and it's brought us all, you know, it's elevated our relationships 1000%. The same would have held true with my mom. We got so far in the process together. The book was actively happening the last 2 years of her life, and it really changed and elevated our relationship as well. She didn't get to read the finished product. I didn't get her to the finish line, but we got really close, and that was something I had never anticipated I was going to get from it. So yeah.
That because she crossed over before you ended, she was the one who pushed you to the finish line. It was the opposite. the spiritual energies are out there, and I know that perhaps you might think of it that way as well.
Yeah.
You know, I love to focus on those things on the journey that actually can help others in being an amazing author yourself. You know, what is some takeaways that you can share with us that might help someone who is an up and coming author, or someone who's out there doing the slog, and perhaps where you might have been, and, you know, that keeps pushing.
Well, yeah, creatively speaking, I would say when you're really sort of diving down deep to you know, unthread maybe sufferings or struggles or challenges in your youth, you know, what ends up happening is you start to see that everyone has their stories, right? And we all know this as adults too, but when you're really doing some hard work on yourself, you really start to see the depth of everyone around you, and it makes you a more compassionate person, right? And that, you know, that's a win situation for anyone that decides to tell their story. And it's not necessarily through the written word. It is through performance on stage. It is through the paintbrush. It is through, you know, riding horseback or taking photographs or just sitting your ass down on a beach. Like, it's all of those things, right? But you just start to see what a global experience it all is. So there's that. You know, practically speaking, I think one of the best things that someone said to me kind of earlier on in the process was to really own and define what success means to you in this process, because you will definitely be told, you know, benchmarks and goals, hashtag, to shoot for or whatever. But if they're not actually your own personal goals, they're pretty meaningless. And so I think it's just really important to look hard at why you decide to, you know, move forward in the process, and so that it's your journey, right? And it's your success that you set out to accomplish. It's your goals.
So what are some of your personal goals with this process now, with now that it's out there and now you're coming up with another novel?
Oh,
What are some of that? Yeah. I just want to say coming up is that you're a performer. Like when you meet, well, you are a larger than life presence, the energy that you output. So I know that it's kind of hard to put TUNI underneath a shell, and like it's not going to happen, because when you're out in the world, you are larger than life. So my question is, knowing that, where do you see you taking this journey now?
Well, okay. Total transparency. One goal was to get a decent Kirkus review, and that happened. So I was thrilled about that. Another goal was not so much a goal, but an outcome, was a true sense of validation, which under the circumstances that I grew up in, and because I was really pulled, you know, so much inside, you know, navigating my life, that people didn't really know me very well. They thought they knew me, right? And this, I know this is not an unusual situation. I think that that's a common experience, right? We keep so much inside, but this obviously was such a huge, you know, telling of my story, and the response that I've gotten has been so supportive and so just caring and loving. There's just so much love out there, and it's just really affirming. Like, thank you. I just want to say thank you all the time, and I'm just really thankful for that.
You know, I prepared you in the outset, you know, what is it that you want your legacy to be? And I think I have another spin on this as I listen to you. I think that there are people who come into this world with a soul calling to heal themselves so that others around them can partake in that peace that you only get from taking those hard steps. And then I'm turning it around on you with regard to the fact that you're a performer, that one of the things that you do in ballet or dance in general has been to move your body in such a way and move the energy and move the whole around you, you know, that the circle or the forward through, and that you came up against some significant pain in something that you did love, having the experience with the celebrity, the actor that hurt you, doing something that you love. So I pull back that you have 5 kids. They're all watching you. They always do. The kids watch their parents. What is that legacy that you are looking to leave this world as you continue your journey walking forward?
You know, I think that the one-on-one that we're capable of every single day is one of the most important things that I do. Waking up, you know, we all have our some relationships that maybe we can only go to a certain place, and then we have that's where it's going to be. But for the most part, we're capable of showing our vulnerabilities, showing that love is our leader, right? And that we can provide that for each other on a, you know, minute to minute basis, always. So, you know, like I do weekly writing groups with people, and you know, we've not any of us met physically face to face. Some of us have been together over a year, and we have just this open vulnerability that moves us every time we meet, right? Or the work that I continue to do in senior homes, it's the same thing. And the ability to bring that not only in the places we choose to, but in the moments that you tend to sort of overlook, right? The store, the parking lot, the, you know, dry cleaner, the post person putting the mail in your slot, like all of that matters. So that to me is what I am continuing to focus on and practice and do better and better at.
And interestingly, your life you become the teacher to others as you've learned to heal the rifts in your own experience. Though having been wishboned in a biking accident, that's clearly something that was profound, from the dancer to someone who needed to basically rehabilitate on. And I have Justin Barney is on here. He's also a teacher in the world of, you know, recognizing those special ones out there who might be hiding and who knows, in their own world and feeling isolated. But when you share stories like this, you bring out those and say, please, you're important too. And that becomes the helping them walking toward something really beautiful in their lives, having, you know, learned over again at 50 plus, you know, that's quite a resilient feat at the same of in perseverance for that matter. But, you know, I would love to know, you know, when we think of TUNI, is there a word that comes up that you would want people to say, oh yes, magical, which clearly you are because you're in my world, or anything to that effect, that, you know, the glossy, sparkly, frosty wonderfulness of you? There's something in your heart that you identify with?
I mean, I would love to be able to say love is that word, truly, but, you know, fun, happy, I don't know, joyful, thankful. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to pin it down to one because you know, I strive for a lot. I really do. And I'm a firm believer that it's never too late. And, you know, like you said, you know, perhaps I'm in a teacher role. I don't see it that way. I honestly see myself as the eternal student, and I love that role. So maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just, you know, embracing the student life. I don't know.
Oh, I love that. Actually, that's a beautiful, beautiful realization, you know, that we're ever the curious ones, ever the ones who are seeking. I love that for you. I think it really does really put into words that one word, the eternal student. I love that. So I know that we said at the outset, this is a book that's based in prose and poetic imagery. Is there a favorite part or a favorite poetic, you know, section or perhaps a quick tome that, or you can share with us in your book that perhaps would be like, oh, wow, it incorporates love, incorporates the eternal student, embodies, let's say, the who you are and the magic that is in you joining us in this realm.
Because there's I love that there's dreams. I love that the style, you know, sort of weaves back and forth, you know, just like the current coming in and leaving the shore, right? There's just all these different sort of ebb and flowing of style throughout the memoir. And, you know, and more than one reviewer really commented on the fact that every word almost felt like it was measured and intentful, and that I really believe is how I tried to present the story on the page. Was every single sentence was so important to me to have it rhythmically, you know, connect, you know, vibrate with my own vibration, have it be just this ongoing speaking to one another, each sentence. So, you know, overall, I'm not going to pull out unnecessarily one passage or quote, but I just felt like from beginning to end, it had that kind of constant wave of continuity, right?
No, I love it. And I love the fact that it all comes from the water imagery. You know, it is all about the effortless flow of life. When we go with the ebbs and flows, like you're talking, that wave, when we're in that, things seem to move a lot easier. And imagine you dancing. I could see your visual, you know, I could see you visually on stage, you know, moving with whatever the moves, energy that pushes you. And then when we all turn around and we go against it, all of the contrast and all of the pushback and all of the, and then we just realize, just turn the boat around, turn your body around, and then move again. I saw that when you were talking, and that's really quite beautiful. So I won't be able to share with everyone right now as to the book, but I can tell you that sentiment definitely comes forth, and it invites you to go with the ebbs and flows and the waves of your life. And ultimately, isn't that what love is all about, when we allow it into our lives and then we can express it outwards? I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think that is a lot of your book, is that absolutely beautiful sentiment. And yes, definitely you can see the eternal student there. So there are a lot of events that are coming up for you on the East Coast. You said that if anyone is interested in meeting you in person, go to her website. It's www.antonia, it's ANTONIADEIGNAN.com, and go look at her listings. I know that you said that you have one on Martha's Vineyard coming up as well on the East Coast. So if you're in that area, I definitely guarantee you'll be a better person for having met TUNI. She really is that love force that comes through, and you will definitely feel that joy after meeting her. I love to leave these conversations on the high note that is the inspiration that you get to share with us today. And I definitely encourage everyone to go by Underwater Daughter. It's a wonderful experience, and I can't say it's not challenging, because reading a story of someone's vulnerability through their pain is hard, but she does take you through it in such a way that it feels as if you're coming up for air. And I think that's beautiful. And I love the fact that you did follow through and publish it and brought you to the world on a much bigger scope. So tell us, what is the inspiration you want us to take away today?
Oh, love first. That's it. Love first, babe. And Meg, I just want to thank you for opening up your world to me and your beautiful magic.
Oh,
I knew the moment we met, right?
I say that. And I love how you're trying to turn it around on me. So I'm going to shove it back into you. Like, all this love. TUNI is a love force. They're saying it in the feed today, and you are. And I feel like when I meet people like you, I'm doing something right. So that goes around, it comes around that beautiful, generous circle of love, and that we get to all share our creative force, love force out in the world. So I love what you're saying. I am a big fan for sure. I definitely encourage everyone out, go ahead and get Underwater Daughter today. You are going to thank me. And then contact TUNI. She is at www.antoniadeignan.com. She welcomes book clubs. She welcomes interaction, that one-on-one. If something moves you, you definitely will benefit from contacting her. She has a newsletter as well. Oh, here comes the love. She has a newsletter as well. Beautiful. Put out into, I guess, monthly, right? You do it on a monthly basis. And there's so much to learn alongside this eternal student. Without further ado, I give the final word to you, and thank you so much for joining us for Amazing Authors today. Final word goes to TUNI.
Oh, come on. This has been just a wonderful half an hour with you, Meg. And, you know, it's just an honor. It truly is. Like, we're super blessed to be able to, you know, go on this journey and have people read our words and hopefully want to reach out and just find the next level for themselves, right? Like, let's just be better. We can do this.
And we have a novel from you coming soon, so we get to be excited about looking forward to that as well. So TUNI, you are a love force. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us for Amazing Authors, episode number 27. Remember, this is where the storyteller becomes the story. Books do change lives. Great writing stirs our emotions, makes us feel, and we are so grateful for those authors like TUNI who are vulnerable to the extent that they are truly changing the world by sharing their story. Keep making a difference with your words that get us all to think, and go out there and be a love force along with TUNI. So have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.